Jack had always lived a simple life. He was just another young mechanic working on a space station, one of the many floating out in the far corners of the galaxy. The station was a quiet place, filled with people from all over the galaxy, but life was predictable. There was little excitement most of the time. Jack spent his days fixing ships, checking engines, and working with the engineers who made sure the station stayed in top shape. But that was before he met her. It started one night when Jack was walking home after a long shift. The station was mostly quiet at this hour, with only the soft hum of machinery and the distant buzz of airlocks opening and closing. Jack was tired, his body sore from hours of hard work. He didn't expect to see anyone, especially not in this quiet part of the station. But there she was. She stood at the edge of the hallway, almost like she was waiting for him. Jack blinked, confused for a moment. She was different. There was something about her that immediately caught his attention, something he couldn't put into words. Her skin was a soft shade of blue, almost glowing under the dim lights of the station. Her eyes were large, dark, and full of something Jack couldn't quite understand. A strange depth that seemed to pull him in. She was beautiful, more beautiful than anyone Jack had ever seen. But it wasn't just her beauty, it was the way she looked at him, the way she seemed to study him, as if she knew him in some way. "Hello," Jack said, his voice hoarse from the long day. The woman didn't reply at first. Instead, she stepped closer, her movements graceful, almost like she was floating. She didn't seem to touch the ground as much as walk on air. Jack couldn't look away. "I am Lyra," she finally said, her voice soft but with a strange, musical tone. "I've been looking for you." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Looking for me? I don't think we've met." Lyra smiled, a small, knowing smile. "No, we have not, but I've seen you before. Many times." Jack frowned. "I don't remember seeing you around here." "Are you new to the station?" "I am different," she said, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. "You wouldn't remember me, but you will." Before Jack could ask her what she meant, she stepped even closer, just inches from him now. Jack could feel his heart begin to race. There was something about her, something that made him feel strange. It wasn't fear, not exactly, but it was something stronger, something magnetic. "Why are you looking for me?" Jack asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra didn't answer right away. She simply tilted her head, studying him more carefully. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Because I crave you." Jack blinked in confusion. "What? Crave me? What does that mean?" Lyra's gaze never wavered. "It means that I need you." Every night, Jack took a step back. "I think you've got the wrong person." But Lyra didn't seem to be listening. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and Jack noticed her posture change. It was as if she was preparing herself for something. Then, she spoke again, this time more firmly. "You don't understand yet, but you will. You are mine." Jack's mind raced. What was she talking about? "I think you should leave," he said, his voice more firm now. "I don't know what this is, but I'm not interested." For a moment, Lyra seemed to consider his words. Then, as if deciding that Jack needed more time to understand, she smiled again. "You will see soon enough, Jack. I will make sure of it." And with that, she turned, walking away as quietly as she had arrived. Jack stood there, watching her disappear down the hallway, a strange feeling of unease settling in his stomach. What had just happened? Who was she, and why did he feel like he couldn't stop thinking about her, even as she vanished into the shadows? That night, Jack couldn't sleep. The encounter with Lyra lingered in his mind, haunting him in a way he didn't fully understand. There was something about her, something that made him feel drawn to her in a way he couldn't explain. The feeling wasn't new, but it was stronger now. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. Every time he tried to think about something else, her words echoed in his ears. "You are mine." It was as if her presence had marked him, and there was no going back. Jack didn't know it yet, but Lyra's visit was only the beginning of something that would change everything. There was a reason she had sought him out, a reason she couldn't stay away. And as Jack would soon find out, it was a reason that would alter the course of his life forever. The days after Jack's encounter with Lyra passed slowly. He tried to shake off the strange feeling she had left him with, but it wasn't easy. He could still remember her eyes, dark and intense, like they saw something inside of him that no one else did. The more he thought about her, the more he wondered what she had meant when she said, "You are mine." At first, Jack tried to stay busy. He worked long hours, keeping his mind focused on the engines, the repairs, the usual tasks of a mechanic. But even during the long shifts, there was something in the back of his mind, like a whisper he couldn't ignore. Lyra. He couldn't help but notice that he hadn't seen her again. It had been days since their strange meeting, and Jack began to wonder if she was just a dream. Maybe it had all been in his head. Then, one evening, just as he was finishing his shift, he saw her again. She was standing near the docking bay, just outside the entrance. Jack's heart skipped a beat when he saw her, his breath catching in his throat. This time, she was waiting for him. Her presence felt stronger this time, like she was drawing him closer. Jack swallowed nervously, trying to steady himself before approaching. "Lyra," he said, his voice cautious. "What are you doing here?" Lyra didn't answer at first. Instead, she gave him a long, thoughtful look, her dark eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his skin tingle. "I have come for you," she said softly, her voice as calm as it had been the last time they spoke. Jack frowned. "I don't understand. What do you mean, come for me?" Lyra stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful, almost hypnotic. "I told you before, Jack, you are mine, and I crave you." Jack felt a strange chill run through him at her words. It wasn't fear exactly, but something deeper, something that pulled him in, made him feel like he was losing control. He tried to step back, but it was as if he couldn't move away from her. "I don't know what you mean," Jack said again, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm just a mechanic. I'm not special." Lyra smiled, a soft, almost sad smile. "You are special to me. I know it, and I know you feel it too." Jack shook his head. "No, I don't, but deep down." He knew she was right. He couldn't explain it, but something inside him had changed ever since he met her. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. Every time he heard her voice, he felt a pull he couldn't ignore. He didn't want to admit it, but he was starting to crave her presence, too. "I don't know what's going on," Jack whispered. Feeling helpless, Lyra stepped even closer, her gaze softening. "You are not alone, Jack. My kind has always been drawn to humans. There is something about you, something in your soul." Jack's heart pounded in his chest. "You're not making sense." "I'm not meant to," Lyra said with a small chuckle. "But I'm not leaving. You won't be able to stop thinking about me. I'm in your mind now." Jack felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy blanket. He wanted to argue, to say something that would make this all go away. But every time he tried, her eyes pulled him in again, and he couldn't fight it. There was no denying the strange connection between them. "You don't understand, Jack," Lyra continued, her voice soft but firm. "When I am near you, my mind becomes clearer, my thoughts calm. You are the answer to something I've been searching for." "What do you mean?" Jack asked, confusion flooding his mind. "What are you searching for?" She hesitated, her eyes flickering for a moment before she answered. "My people, my race, are dying. We have always needed a connection like this to survive, and now we are too few. The bond between us is vital." Jack's confusion deepened. "What bond?" Lyra reached out slowly, her hand hovering just above his. "The connection between us, Jack, it is more than just desire. It is life. My people cannot live without it, and I cannot live without you." Jack stood frozen, his mind racing to keep up with her words. He didn't know how to respond. All he knew was that his heart was beating faster, his chest tight with a feeling he couldn't shake. "I don't know what to say," Jack said quietly. "You don't have to say anything, Jack. Just feel." Before Jack could say another word, Lyra's hand gently brushed against his. The touch sent a jolt through his body, and he felt a strange warmth spreading through him. His mind seemed to clear, the world around him falling away. All he could focus on was Lyra, the pull of her presence, the strange connection they shared. It was like a thread tying them together, something unspoken but undeniably real. You feel it too, don't you? Lyra whispered, her voice soft and almost comforting. Jack nodded slowly, though he wasn't sure what to make of it. He didn't understand, but he couldn't deny that there was something powerful between them, something that felt too strong to ignore. I don't know how this is possible, Jack admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. But I can't stop thinking about you. I know, Lyra said, her smile gentle, and you never will. The days after Jack's meeting with Lyra became a blur. He couldn't concentrate on his work anymore. Every time he tried to focus on the tasks in front of him, his mind wandered back to her. Her words echoed in his thoughts, the feeling of her touch still fresh in his memory. He had tried to push it all away, but it was impossible. She had already become part of his life in a way he couldn't explain. Jack knew he had to see her again, but there was a part of him that feared what would happen if he did. He didn't fully understand the connection they shared, and the more he thought about it, the more dangerous it seemed. Lyra had said that it wasn't just a bond of desire, but one that her species needed to survive. And now, Jack wasn't sure if he was part of some plan or if it was something more. One evening, as Jack walked through the station after another long shift, he found himself near the same docking bay where he had seen her before. He wasn't looking for her, but somehow his feet led him there, as if some unseen force was guiding him. And when he reached the entrance, he saw her again. Lyra was standing there, just like before. Her eyes met his, and Jack felt a sudden rush of warmth spread through him. It was like every part of him recognized her, like they were two pieces of a puzzle that had finally come together. His heart began to race, but this time, he wasn't scared. Instead, he felt a pull, an undeniable urge to step forward. Lyra, Jack said, his voice steady. But his mind was still reeling from everything he had learned. She didn't speak at first. She simply watched him, her eyes glowing in the dim light of the station. It was almost as if she were waiting for him to come to her. I knew you would come, she finally said, her voice soft, almost comforting. I knew you couldn't stay away. Jack swallowed. I don't know what this is, Lyra, but I can't stop thinking about you. Every time I try, it's like my mind won't let me. Lyra stepped closer, her presence so strong that Jack felt like he couldn't breathe properly. It's because of the bond, Jack. You're part of it now, whether you understand it or not. Jack nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. He wasn't sure if he believed her fully, but he couldn't deny the truth in her eyes. The connection was real, and it was growing stronger every day, and for some reason, he didn't want to fight it anymore. I don't want to fight it, Jack said quietly, almost as if he were confessing something he had been too afraid to admit. Lyra smiled, a slow, knowing smile. You don't have to, Jack. You never did. The air between them seemed to thrum with energy, and Jack found himself taking another step closer to her. It was like a magnet pulling him in, and no matter how hard he tried to resist, he couldn't. What do you want from me, Lyra? Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. The question hung in the air between them, and for a moment, there was only silence. But Lyra didn't seem to need words. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand. The moment their skin touched, Jack felt a spark, like an electric shock running through his body. It was both thrilling and terrifying, and for a second, he wasn't sure if he could handle it. I want you, Jack, she said, her voice low. Every night, I need you. You're the answer to everything my people have been searching for. Jack didn't understand fully, but he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't turn back. Something inside him had changed. His feelings for Lyra weren't just about attraction anymore. It was deeper than that. It was like they were meant to be together, even if it was wrong, even if it was forbidden. I can't stop wanting you, Jack admitted, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Every time I see you, it's like I need to be with you. Lyra's smile grew, and she closed the distance between them. Her hand rested against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palm. Jack was no longer worried about what might happen. All he cared about was being with her, feeling her presence, and knowing that he wasn't alone. This connection is more than desire. Jack, Lyra said softly, it's life for me. Without you, my people would fade away. You are the key to our survival. And for me, you are everything. The words hit Jack like a wave crashing against the shore. He didn't fully understand what Lyra meant, but he could feel the truth in her words. Whatever this bond was, it was stronger than anything he had ever felt. He had become part of something much bigger than himself, and he didn't know where it would take him. But at that moment, all that mattered was Lyra. She was the one he had been craving, the one he couldn't stop thinking about. And as she leaned in closer, Jack knew there was no going back. He kissed her, feeling her warmth flood through him. It was as if they were two halves of the same being, finally coming together. Everything else in the galaxy faded away, and there was only the two of them, standing there in the quiet of the station, bound by something neither of them could fully explain. The days that followed Jack and Lyra's growing connection felt like a whirlwind. Every moment Jack spent with her felt more intense than the last. He found himself drawn to her like he couldn't escape, and with each passing day, the bond between them seemed to grow stronger. His life on the station, once filled with the routine of work and quiet evenings, had become filled with thoughts of Lyra. The pull between them was undeniable, and Jack had begun to accept it, to embrace it. The bond he shared with Lyra wasn't something he could explain, but he didn't care anymore. She made him feel alive in a way he had never experienced before. But not everyone saw things the way Jack did. One afternoon, as Jack was working in the engine room, he received a message. It was an urgent summons from the Galactic Council. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had heard of the Council before. They were the ruling body that governed the galaxy, made up of representatives from many different species. But he had never imagined he would have to deal with them. He had no idea why they were calling him. When he arrived at the Council's chamber, Jack was met by a group of beings from different races. There were tall, slender creatures with skin that shimmered like metal, others with wings like angels, and even one who appeared to be made entirely of stone. They all stared at him with serious expressions. But the one who spoke first was a tall figure with blue skin and piercing golden eyes. Jack, the figure said, his voice deep and commanding. We have summoned you here because of your relationship with Lyra. Jack felt his stomach tighten. He had no idea how the council knew about him and Lyra, but somehow they did. What do you mean? Jack asked, trying to remain calm. The council member's gaze never left him. Lyra is from a species that has long been known to seek out humans for a specific reason. The connection you share with her is not merely emotional, Jack. It is biologically necessary for her kind to survive. Jack's mind raced. He had always known that there was something unusual about their bond, but he hadn't realized it was something so important. Her people are dying. The council member continued. They cannot survive without the bond to humans, and she has found that bond with you. But the consequences of this connection could be far-reaching. It could disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy. Jack was silent, his heart pounding in his chest. He had known there was something powerful between him and Lyra, but hearing the council speak about it like this made him realize how dangerous it could be. Why are you telling me this? Jack asked, his voice quiet. Another council member, a short, round alien with green skin, spoke up. Because we cannot allow this to continue, Jack. The bond you share with Lyra is forbidden. It could cause serious political unrest, and we will not allow that to happen. Jack's mind raced as he tried to process what they were saying. He had never been a part of anything this big, this complicated. He was just a mechanic, a simple human trying to do his job. How had he ended up in the middle of something so dangerous? We have to stop this, Jack, the first council member said. We're giving you a choice. You can end your connection with Lyra now, and we will not take further action. Or you can continue this bond, and there will be consequences. Jack's heart sank. He looked around the room at the other members of the council. They all had the same serious expression, as if they had already made up their minds about what would happen next. I can't just end it. Jack said, his voice shaking. Lyra, she needs me. You don't understand, the council member replied. This connection is dangerous, not just for you, but for the galaxy. We have the power to sever it. It would be in your best interest to listen to us. Jack felt his anger rising. How could they ask him to give up something so important? He wasn't going to let them control his life. I'm not going to let you take her away from me, Jack said, his voice growing stronger. I don't care what the council thinks. I won't stop seeing Lyra. The council member's expression hardened. You've been warned, Jack. We will not stand by and let this happen. With that, the council session ended, and Jack was escorted out of the room. His mind was spinning with thoughts of Lyra and the council's warning. What would he do? Now, he couldn't just walk away from her. But if he didn't, he knew there would be consequences. And they wouldn't be just for him. They could affect the entire galaxy. As Jack left the council chamber, he walked through the quiet hallways of the station, feeling more lost than ever. He needed to talk to Lyra to figure out what to do next. He couldn't do this alone. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that this wasn't just about him. This was about Lyra's survival, about their bond, and about a galaxy that was trying to tear them apart. That night, as the stars outside the station twinkled in the distance, Jack made his decision. He would stand by Lyra, no matter what, and if the council didn't understand, then he would have to make them understand. But first, he had to find her. Jack paced back and forth in his small quarters, his mind racing with thoughts of what had happened earlier. The council's warning weighed heavily on him, and he couldn't stop thinking about the threat they had made. If he didn't break off his connection with Lyra, there would be consequences. He didn't know what they would do, but he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. The choice was clear, but it wasn't easy. His heart told him to stay with Lyra, to keep their bond alive, but his mind kept flashing back to the council's words. He wasn't just risking his own life anymore. He was risking Lyra's people, the entire galaxy's peace, and even their future together. His feelings for Lyra had grown stronger with each passing day. She wasn't just an alien to him anymore. She was someone he cared about deeply. He could feel the truth in her words when she said they were bound by something greater than themselves. He didn't fully understand it, but he couldn't deny it. As Jack thought about the council's warning, he realized something. The bond he shared with Lyra wasn't just a fleeting connection. It was a deep, unbreakable tie that neither of them could simply walk away from. But if they continued, there would be consequences. The council had made that clear. He had to make a choice, one that could change everything. Jack took a deep breath, trying to calm his thoughts. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't let the council dictate his life. He wouldn't be controlled by anyone, especially not by a group of strangers who didn't understand what Lyra meant to him. Without wasting any more time, Jack headed out of his quarters, determined to find Lyra. He didn't know what would happen next, but he couldn't keep running from the truth. He needed to talk to her, to tell her what the council had said, and to make sure she knew what was at stake. When Jack found her, she was standing by the window, looking out at the stars. Her presence was like a magnet, pulling him closer. He could feel the warmth of her energy, her connection to him, as he approached. Lyra turned to face him as he entered the room, her eyes soft and knowing. She didn't need to ask what was on his mind. She could sense it. The weight of the decision he had to make hung between them like a thick fog. You've spoken to them, Lyra said softly. Haven't you? Jack nodded, his heart heavy. Yes, they've warned me, Lyra. They said if we continue this connection, there will be consequences. Lyra's expression was unreadable for a moment, and Jack could see the sadness in her eyes. I knew this would come. The council doesn't understand. They don't see what we have, what we need. Jack stepped closer to her, his hand reaching out to touch hers. The moment they made contact, he felt the familiar spark that had drawn him to her from the beginning. It was more than just desire. It was something deeper, something beyond words. I can't stop thinking about you, Lyra, Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know if it's the bond or if it's just you, but I can't let go of what we have. Lyra smiled gently, her hand squeezing his. I don't want you to let go. I don't want to be alone. Jack, I've never felt this way before. You are everything to me. The weight of her words pressed on Jack's chest. She was right. They were connected in a way that neither of them could explain. It wasn't just about survival for her people, although that was important. It was about something far greater. Their bond was real, and it was strong. Jack looked into her eyes, seeing the fear and the longing reflected there. He knew what she was afraid of. She was afraid of losing him. She was afraid of being alone. He couldn't let that happen. Not to her. Not to them. I won't leave you, Lyra, Jack promised, his voice steady. We'll face whatever comes, together. Whatever the council wants to do, we'll deal with it, but I'm not giving up on us. Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes as she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around Jack. He held her tightly, feeling the warmth of her embrace, knowing that this was where he belonged. No matter what happened, he wouldn't back down. He couldn't. I love you, Jack, Lyra whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I never thought I would feel this way. I never thought I could love a human. But I do. Jack pulled back slightly, his hands gently cupping her face. I love you too, Lyra. More than you know. For a long moment, they just stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, the weight of the galaxy's expectations pressing down on them. But in that moment, it didn't matter. All that mattered was that they were together. Jack made his decision. He would stay by Lyra's side. No matter the cost. The council could try to stop them, but they couldn't break the bond between him and Lyra. He was no longer afraid of what might happen. He was ready to face it, to fight for what he believed in. And he believed in them. As Jack and Lyra stood together, the stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was giving them its blessing. Whatever the future held, they would face it as one. The days after Jack made his decision to stay with Lyra passed in a blur. They spent every moment they could together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. But even as they shared their time, a heavy weight still pressed down on Jack's chest. The council's warning had not been forgotten, and every night, as he lay beside Lyra, he couldn't shake the fear of what might happen if they did not back down. The station seemed quieter now, as if everyone knew that something was about to change. Jack tried to go about his duties, but his thoughts were always with Lyra, always on the edge of a decision that he knew could alter the course of his life forever. One evening, as Jack walked through the station after another long shift, he saw a ship docked in the main bay. It wasn't a ship he recognized, and it looked far too official for a routine visitor. As he drew closer, the unmistakable insignia of the Galactic Council glowed on the side of the ship, sending a cold shiver down his spine. The council had come. Jack's heart raced. He knew this moment would come, but he had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that it would never arrive. He wasn't ready. He didn't want to face them, not like this. But there was no avoiding it. This was the price of his decision. As he stood there, trying to gather his thoughts, a familiar figure appeared in the doorway of the ship. It was the same tall council member with golden eyes, the one who had spoken to him before. His gaze was sharp, cold, and filled with authority. Jack, the council member said, his voice like a low, rumbling thunder. We've come for Lyra. Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. She's not going anywhere, he said firmly, his voice not wavering despite the fear that was beginning to rise inside him. You can't take her. I've made my decision. The council member's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something Jack couldn't quite read. You don't understand, human. This is not just about you and Lyra. This is about the survival of her entire species. You are disrupting the balance of the galaxy, and that cannot be allowed. Jack stepped forward, his fists clenched. I don't care about your balance. I care about her, and she cares about me. That's all that matters. The council member's lips curled into a tight smile. You're brave, human, but you are foolish. The consequences of your actions go far beyond you and her. If you continue down this path, you will bring more than just trouble to yourself. You will bring destruction to everything you hold dear. Jack could feel his anger rising. He had heard enough. "You don't get to decide that for me," he said, his voice growing louder. "I won't back down. I love her, and I'm not going to let anyone take her from me." There was silence between them for a moment. The council members studied Jack closely, as if trying to decide what to do next. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm, but with a sense of finality. "Then you leave us no choice. We will give you one. Final warning, Jack. Step away from her, and you will be left unharmed. But if you refuse, we will take action, and you will not be able to stop it." Jack felt the weight of those words, but he didn't falter. He knew what he had to do. He knew what his heart had already chosen. "I'm not going to let you threaten us," Jack said, his voice steady. "I will stand by Lyra. Whatever happens, we face it together." The council members' gaze hardened, and Jack could see the anger beneath the calm facade. "Very well, human. You have made your choice. Don't say we didn't warn you." With that, the council member turned and walked back toward the ship, leaving Jack standing there in the bay, feeling both relieved and terrified at the same time. Jack didn't waste any time. He turned and made his way to Lyra's quarters. He needed to see her, to tell her what had happened. He didn't know what the future held for them, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to lose her, not without a fight. When he reached her door, he hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure how to explain everything, how to make her understand the danger they were facing. But he had to try. As the door slid open, Jack saw Lyra standing there, waiting for him. She didn't say anything at first, but her eyes told him everything he needed to know. She knew something had happened. "They're here," Jack said quietly. "The council. They've come to take you." Lyra's expression remained calm, but Jack could see the sadness in her eyes. "I knew this day would come," she said softly, "but I didn't want it to. I never wanted to bring you into this." "You didn't," Jack replied, stepping closer to her. "I chose this, and I'm not going to let them take you away from me." Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with something like hope. "You're willing to fight for me?" "I'll fight for you, Lyra," Jack said firmly. "No matter what." For a moment, there was silence between them. Then Lyra stepped forward, her hand reaching out to touch his face. "I love you, Jack," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I never thought I would find this, but now that I have, I can't lose it." Jack pulled her into an embrace, holding her tightly. "I love you too, Lyra, and we'll face whatever comes next, together." As they stood there, locked in each other's arms, Jack knew that their fight was just beginning. But no matter what happened, he would stand by her side. They were in this together, and that was all that mattered. The tension was thick in the air as Jack stood beside Lyra, both of them facing the uncertainty of what was to come. They had made their choice, and now there was no turning back. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of something big, something that would change their lives forever. But even as the danger loomed over them, one thing was certain: they were stronger together. The council had warned them. They had tried to intimidate Jack, to make him turn away from Lyra, but Jack refused. He couldn't be controlled. The love he felt for Lyra wasn't just a passing feeling. It was real, and he wouldn't let anyone take that away from him for the next few days. Jack and Lyra kept to themselves, trying to figure out what to do next. They couldn't stay on the station forever. The council was bound to make good on their threat, and when they did, Jack wasn't sure if he would be able to stop them. But he couldn't run either. He couldn't leave Lyra, not after everything they had been through. One evening, as the stars twinkled outside the station, Jack sat by the window, his mind racing. He needed a plan, something that would allow him and Lyra to stay together and protect her people from the council. But what could he do? He wasn't a leader. He wasn't a diplomat. He was just a mechanic. Lyra joined him by the window, her presence comforting. She didn't say anything at first, but Jack could feel her eyes on him. She knew what he was thinking. "I don't know what to do," Jack admitted, his voice quiet. "The council's not going to stop until they get what they want. They're too powerful. I can't fight them alone." Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone, Jack. We'll figure this out together." You've already made your choice, and so have I. No matter what the council says, we face it as one." Her words gave him strength. He wasn't alone. They had each other, and together they were stronger than they had ever been. Jack looked out the window, deep in thought. He wasn't sure how, but he knew there had to be a way to outsmart the council, to protect Lyra and her people without giving in to their threats. The next morning, as Jack prepared for another day on the station, he received an unexpected message. It was from a representative of the Galactic Alliance, an organization that acted as a neutral party in disputes between different species. The message was short but clear. They had heard of the situation with Lyra and the council, and they wanted to meet with Jack. At first, Jack was skeptical. The Galactic Alliance wasn't exactly known for taking sides in such matters, but if they were willing to listen, maybe they could help. It was a risk, but it was a chance he couldn't pass up. Jack made his way to the meeting room, where the representative was waiting. She was a tall, dignified woman with dark, smooth skin and sharp features. She had the look of someone who had seen it all, someone who knew how to navigate the complexities of the galaxy's politics. "Mr. Jack," she said, her voice calm but firm, "I understand you've made quite a choice, and now you are asking for our help." Jack nodded, his mind focused. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but I won't let the council take Lyra away. She's important, and so is our bond. Her people are facing extinction, and the council doesn't understand that. They don't care." The representative studied him for a moment before responding. "You are right about one thing, Jack. The council has its own interests, and those interests don't always align with what's best for everyone. But that doesn't mean we can just ignore the consequences of your actions." Jack clenched his fists, frustration building. "I'm not asking for a free pass. I'm asking for a chance to fight for what's right." The representative leaned back in her chair, considering his words. "You're asking for a lot, Jack, but the truth is, there are others in the galaxy who will understand. The Galactic Alliance is not a government. We are a collective. We believe in cooperation and finding solutions that benefit everyone." Jack's eyes widened. "Are you saying you'll help us?" The representative nodded slowly. "We will do what we can, but it will not be easy. You have to understand that the council won't back down easily, but we will offer you the support you need to stand your ground." Jack felt a rush of relief wash over him. It wasn't much, but it was enough. They had a chance. They could fight back. And with the Galactic Alliance on their side, they might just be able to win. "Thank you," Jack said, his voice full of gratitude. "We won't forget this." The representative smiled, a small but knowing smile. "I hope you don't have to. But remember, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for a future, for a chance at survival. Make sure you're ready for what's to come." Jack left the meeting room with a renewed sense of hope. For the first time in days, he felt like there was a way forward. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't be without danger, but at least now they had a chance. As he made his way back to Lyra's quarters, his thoughts raced. He knew that things were about to get much more complicated, but he also knew that, with Lyra by his side, they could face anything. The fight for their future wasn't over, but they had just taken the first step toward a new beginning. When Jack entered her room, Lyra was waiting for him, her eyes filled with concern. He walked toward her, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "We've got a chance," Jack said, his voice full of determination. "The Galactic Alliance is going to help us." Lyra's eyes softened, and she reached out to take his hand. "We're not alone, Jack. We'll face whatever comes next, together." And as they stood there, hand in hand, Jack knew that no matter what the future held, they would fight for each other, for the love they shared, and for the future of Lyra's people. Together, they were unstoppable.